All right, yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Murdoch DeFi YouTube channel. And in today's video, we have a special guest. He goes by the name of Ted. He is one of the, I guess, maybe one, if not the only founder of Daylight, which is a protocol that's been out for some time now, and they're working on pushing something new out to Arbitrum, right, Ted?
That's correct.
Okay,
So
cool.
I am one of the co-founders of Project Daylight, which is a deflationary reward protocol that's running on the BNB chain, and also the co-founder of Crescent Swap, that is coming to Arbitrum, which is basically taking our project cross-chain, but also implementing a lot of cool new unique utilities
Yeah.
to Arbitrum itself.
Awesome. So before we get into like the Crescent swap or the Moonlight stuff, can we touch on a little bit? Touch a little bit on Daylight and how the progress has been from day one up until where you guys are at now.
Yeah, of course. So Daylight essentially, we've launched the project as well as its primary token, Daylight token, which is a hyper-deflationary reward token back in about November. Right now, the supply is at 48% of its max supply. So that's one of the reasons we call it hyper-deflationary. It's a reward token that can be sold down into the liquidity pool to generate more rewards. So that's something very interesting that we've made unique. It is a protocol that is collateralized to a certain extent, so it has a redemption flow value that ensures that even in the case of no liquidity or the team goes rogue, there is a substantial amount of backing in BUSD that people can actually redeem their tokens for. So what we've provided is a minimum downside risk project where we have defined the downside risk as well as created an outlet where you can yield farm, you can stake your tokens, and you can trade them exclusively on our DEX, right? So apart from that, we've also created a stable appreciating token called Apollo, which actually buys back and burns the Daylight token with some of its taxes, right? So Apollo is very similar to the variants of MDB Plus and other appreciating assets, but have surpassed the price in just 3 weeks from its launch. So its algorithm is a bit stronger and enables it to move upwards. However, the downside is, of course, its taxes are slightly higher. But a lot of people that invested into Apollo really early are already up by their investment by approximately, I would say, 8 to 10%.
Okay. Now, when you talk about these tokens having specific taxes, is that like the main way that your protocol generates revenue, or do you have outside sources of revenue that are generated to pay out holders, I guess?
Yeah, so we have our own DEX, which of course earns us swap fees, and that basically goes back into POL, and it goes back into a lot of farming the rewards as well as burning the token over time. And then some of those DEX fees, especially last month, we've actually started taking those DEX fees and then investing it into the redeem contract, which backs the flow price of the project, the redemption price of the project, essentially providing a higher minimum downside risk for a lot of investors.
Okay, interesting. And is that a different DEX from the one that's launching on Arbitrum, or is that kind of like all tied in together?
Well, it's going to be a completely separate project. However, the revenue sharing, a lot of it is tied in together because it is essentially part of the same protocol. So let's say we're making, just for a vivid example, $10,000 revenue on Arbitrum in swap fees, for instance. We take that and then we'd of course reinvest into development, marketing for both projects at the same time, therefore fortifying our entire ecosystem together, because in the end it is Daylight, it is Moonlight. So Crescent Swap's name is derived from Moonlight itself, and therefore we are branding it together as a collective ecosystem.
Okay, and why the push to Arbitrum rather than any other chain?
So what we've seen lately is that Arbitrum, a lot of projects are trying to ride this Arbitrum wave, this Arbitrum hype in light of any speculative airdrops. But what we've seen is that a lot of these projects that are getting on there are not really bringing any new technology, right?
Right.
And we've decided that, hey, there is no hyper appreciating stable asset like Apollo, our token, like MDB Plus, like XUSD on Arbitrum. This is something that we can provide and build on Arbitrum and showcase this technology. It is a hot chain where a lot of people are wanting good investments that have some sort of collateralized value, as opposed to a lot of fair launches where you have to wait for the products to come out for 8 months, 12 months, 10 months before you can actually use anything on their dApp, right? And
Yeah.
I'll give a fair few examples. So there's a project called Nitro Cartel, or Arbitrov token. Very
Hmm.
recently, I also invested in it in their fair launch. The price is down about 45-50%. And you know there is a massive waiting time until the product is actually released. They raise big amount of money, they have nice deep liquidity. However, what I feel is that you know the technology that they're bringing is very similar to a lot of other technology that has come onto Arbitrum. We want to showcase a new product, we want to showcase something really different, and we do want to create competition on chain because we're builders, we're innovators, we're a team of developers. And the point of all this is to basically not only position ourselves better in the space as developers, but also position our technology better.
Yeah. And are you guys, I guess, hoping that you'll be able to take, since Arbitrum is kind of like a hot chain at the moment,
Yeah.
are you guys hoping to I guess utilize your guys' decks and accrue more fees that way, since a lot of attention is on Arbitrum right now?
Correct. So what we're actually doing with Crescent Swap, for instance, is we're providing a tailored solution for a lot of projects that want to actually list on our decks. So we have dynamic directional fees, which is very similar to what Camelot is doing, but these fees would be able to set a different swap percentage from on different pairs or in different directions. So if you buy, maybe you get a swap fee of 0.25, and if you sell, you can get a swap fee of 1%, for instance, right?
Right.
And this is an approach that a lot of projects are looking for but are not really able to customize because they would actually miss out on revenue, right? So Pancake Swap, for example, has their very own swap fees. They are getting all the revenue. The projects that list there are not actually getting any benefits from the core technology of the DEX itself, right? And this is a solution that we've provided for projects that are going to be getting on Crescent Swap. And apart from that, of course, exposure, of course, a collaboration, and more communication, which makes it less DeFi on the communication side, but at the same time, our technology is kept decentralized and permissionless.
Awesome. Cool. So let's just say I'm somebody that's watching this AMA, Ted, and I want to understand as an investor, like what is the best way, or what's the easiest way, or maybe there's only one way, but what's the way that I can interact with Moonlight or Crescent Swap and be able to earn income, or you know increase the amount of capital that's in my portfolio through you guys, right?
Of course. So I think the easiest way to first obtain the information or ask the right questions is to join our Discord. Have a look at our documentation, have a look at our website, crescentswap.exchange. And after that, once you get a feel of the protocol, you'd be able to understand that there are three different investment vehicles that we're offering, primarily on our DEX and within our ecosystem itself. So the first being the Crescent DAO NFTs. So you'd get a nice customized profile picture, which is an animated ape, with scenery of the moon. So it's reminiscent of Moonlight. And what these NFTs are are sort of revenue sharing NFTs or profit sharing NFTs. There are only going to be 100 in existence and 100 to be minted. So each NFT actually yields 10 Moonlight tokens for 1 year. That means you get 3650 tokens for the whole year. And then apart from that, you also get a portion of the Artemis token taxes. So Artemis token has 8% taxes. A portion is used for price rise. A portion is sent to the treasury, which is just 1% out of 8%. And 3% is actually distributed evenly amongst all NFT holders, right? So let's say, for example, there are 10 NFT holders. There is volume of $1 million on the token itself. So, which means 3% is 30,000 USDC, right? 30,000 USDC is going to be split amongst 10 NFT holders, yielding each person 3,000 USDC directly credited into their wallet. So that's, a pretty cool revenue
Yeah.
profit sharing model that we've created for these NFTs. We've actually created real utility, and not just, a cool profile picture.
Right.
The profit sharing is in perpetuity, but the yielding of Moonlight tokens is only for 1 year to prevent, any dump pressure that will come from prolonged accumulation.
Right. So you mentioned something that's very interesting, and that's that there's only going to be 100 NFTs minted, right?
Correct. Correct.
What was, I guess, help me understand the decision making process behind only having 100 of these NFTs.
Yeah. So we want the people that contribute, because this is the first, I would say, fundraising essentially, in a way, because we are raising 3,500 USDC per NFT. This is sort of a fundraising, uh, you know, initiation for the protocol. So people that invest in early, we feel that their rewards should be exclusive, and, sort of become an exclusive club, all in the same, realm, in the same protocol. And apart from that, these NFTs actually give you the option to vote on different protocol decisions, on governance decisions. For example, there is a project coming onto Crescent Capsule, which is our launchpad. You'd be able to vote as one of the Crescent DAO, NFT members, or the Crescent DAO members, whether this project gets on or not, right? So it also provides governance. It showcases that, the early investors, the people that have researched this protocol thoroughly, that have, been in from the start, are able to make decisions for the better good of the other people in the project. And apart from that, if we made too many NFTs, the profit sharing and the revenue sharing model would actually be diluted. And
Yeah.
that's something that we don't want for our earliest, and I would say most loyal investors, because they're just buying a profile picture without, the revenue being generated even.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds super cool, actually. So that the NFTs is almost kind of like your guys' pre-sale, right?
In a way, yes, it is sort of our pre-sale, because the funds that are, taken from the NFT, number one, will be used to seed the liquidity for the Artemis token,
Mm.
which will be fair launched with no one else having any supply or backing, which means from then on the price will, keep going up. There will be no sell pressure. Even if there was sell pressure, Artemis is a token that never goes down in price, so it would actually go up.
And how does that
Um,
work?
yeah, so to explain in more detail, it's got taxes. Artemis is a token that does not use liquidity pools, and therefore, there is no shift in ratio between, let's say, USDC and Artemis. If you were to pair them together,
Hmm.
when you so it's got an 8% tax, and four of it goes towards its price rise. So it means that if you're minting $100 worth of Artemis, 4% of that supply is actually not minted. And 92 USDC goes into the backing contract. 4 USDC is distributed amongst, so 3 USDC is distributed evenly amongst NFT holders. 1 USDC goes to the treasury, right?
Mm.
And this is how the price keeps rising. When you sell, let's say you're selling 100, you're getting taxed 8%. You're actually burning all the tokens that you sell. Therefore, they are not going back into a liquidity pool. The supply decreases, but at the same time, the backing stays the same. And therefore, the price rises that way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And this is, and that's kind of, well, is that exactly what you guys are doing with Daylight currently?
Yes, so we have the Apollo token. So
Right.
Apollo in Greek mythology is Artemis's brother.
Hmm.
And with its current market cap around $350,000, it is sitting at almost 1.25 price, which is 25% increase from the launch price.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, cool. So now that or is there anything else that you want to, like, because I kind of interrupted you there, but
Of
is
course,
there is there anything else that you wanted to throw into the NFT before we move on to other ways to earn?
no, not at all. That
Okay.
that should be about it for the NFTs.
Okay, cool. So that was the NFTs. What is the other ways that I as an investor can earn?
So you could actually earn using the Moonlight token. Yeah.
Okay.
As well as the Artemis token. I'll first explain Artemis. Artemis, as I said, is a hyper appreciating stable asset. So it's got 8% in and out tax. 4% goes towards its price rise, which means it's not minted or the backing is not taken out when it's sold. 1% goes towards the treasury as the royalty, of course, for building our technology. 3% is distributed evenly amongst all the NFT holders. So it's 3% of the USDC divided by 100. And the ways that other appreciating assets have been used are they've been used as a liquidity pool solution. They've been used as you can pair liquidity with some other token to earn it. But with Crescent Swap, we've actually made something quite different. So Artemis token has several utilities. The first one being, of course, you can pair it with other tokens such as ETH, USDC, and Moonlight. Those will be our primary tokens on the DEX. And then you can, of course, yield farm it for more Moonlight tokens, which is also a deflationary token. Apart from that, Artemis can also be offered as seeding for liquidity for a lot of projects that get onto our decks. And we would provide select projects with this liquidity solution from our side. And this way we collect fees, this way we collect revenue. But in turn, for listing their project on our decks, we would provide them with a small amount of seeded liquidity from our side in Artemis tokens. When we bind to the token, it would, of course, appreciate the price and distribute the taxes to everybody.
Yeah.
And then, transacting that into a liquidity pool, of course, helps all the holders as well as the NFT holders of the token Artemis itself. But the last thing that I wanted to share, and it is something truly fantastic, is we've got something called the Crescent Vault, which is sort of a different approach to yield farming, and it's something really innovative. And basically, what you can do with Artemis tokens is you could deposit them into a select yield farm or a vault or a different strategy and basically consider it as sunk cost, right? So when a lot of people yield farm, the problem that they're facing is that, am I going to be subject to impermanent loss? Am I going to lose
Mhm.
all my LP tokens? What if I withdraw my tokens and, you know, it isn't what it is anymore? So we've sort of eliminated that whole thought process by saying, this is a sunk cost, this is a one-time deposit, and you can actually earn tokens in perpetuity. And what we're actually doing is we're aggregating different yield farms across Arbitrum. For example, we aggregate a yield farm from Camelot Dex, or we aggregate a yield farm from GMX, which is GMX USDC.
Mhm.
What we would do is we would sell the Artemis tokens that are deposited into the contract. We would, buy into that liquidity pool, GMX USDC, for example, that yields GMX. And then that would be kept as protocol owned liquidity, but it would distribute rewards to the person that deposited that sunk cost in perpetuity.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of, say I wanted to stake tokens into the vault, what is that paid out in? Is that a different
There
reward
will
token, or is that Artemis or Moonlight?
Yeah, so if you staked Artemis into the vault, there would be actually a variety of strategies to choose from, right? So let's say that you wanted to go for this farm that yields GMX in for 16% APY, you could do that. You want to go for this farm that yields Moonlight, giving you a 120% APY, you could also select that. You could select these strategies, and what we're actually working on once this takes off is dual token rewards or even triple token rewards, right?
Hmm.
Which would be something really interesting for a lot of users that want to diversify their portfolio really, really fast with just the click of a button.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I would say maybe a year and a half ago, when I personally was like heavy into
Yeah.
what I call like DeFi 2.0, where mostly you're talking about yield farming and stuff like that. I was doing a lot of stuff on Phantom, but more importantly on a protocol called Liquid Driver. Are you familiar? Okay.
Yeah.
So Liquid Driver, you would stake your tokens, and then you could get paid out in a bunch of like their partner tokens, right? So it's definitely it was a cool way to kind of diversify your portfolio and earn in multiple different tokens. Um, and that's the only, I mean, really, I mean, I haven't put too much time into looking to see what's out there now, but it kind of sounds like you guys are doing something similar. And at the time, that was the only protocol that was doing anything like that. So it's definitely something that I think is cool to me and appeals to me. Now, I know that there's with there being like so many different avenues to interact with what you guys have going on. Do you think that that's like a hurdle for you guys? In the DeFi landscape as of now, or let's just say like the last 6 months, where you just stake your stable coins and earn passive income and things like that, where it's very easy, or there's crazy numbers that people are chasing after, whether that's 1% a day, 2% a day, things like that. Do you think that those are going to be challenges that you guys have to like try to overcome, or kind of what's your thought process around that?
I think a lot of people, have been in DeFi for a while, and if they've discovered these stable, high ROI dApps, we can throw some names out there. We can throw some names like Stable Fund,
Hmm.
BUSD Garden, Baked Beans. A lot of people would start to understand that the problem with a lot of these projects is they would, become a first come, first serve, I
Yep.
guess, avenue for people that come in early and then burn out the people that would go into the last spot before the project sort of gets depleted. And a lot of these developers, they cannot actually take accountability because the technology behind a lot of these products is very simple. You're basically depositing a sunk cost and you're able to withdraw other people's money. Whoever
Yep.
reaches the finish line the fastest is the clear winner, right? And that's the problem with unsustainability in protocols. There is no revenue generated, there is no technology tied to it, there's no actual product revolving around this entire protocol. There is just, we have a linear miner, etc., etc.
Hmm.
This is the risk. I have seen actually some really good examples that have brought in, external revenue, or the team is actually seeding the rewards on their own. Uh, for example, Arc. For example, I've seen Elephant Money doing a nice, turnaround as well.
Sure.
But the thing is, our approach is not making something that some people would describe as Ponzinomic. Our approach is not making something that, in the foreseeable future, we're not really sure if it's sustainable or not, and we don't want to risk that, right? So we respect the protocols that are doing amazing during this period of time, that are paying out great rewards to people, that are enabling people to ROI. But what we want to focus on is real DeFi, real yield farming, and a lot of products and technology. That is, I guess, our approach is more sustainability and more collateralization than anything else.
Yeah, and do you think that we see a shift like towards that way based on, because here's the reality, right? Is like, just like you were saying, well, we have all these like ROI dApps that pop up
Yeah.
overnight, and they're up for maybe, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes a couple of weeks. When we talk about stable fund, it was up for a couple of months, but then look what happens, right? Like they always come crashing and burning down. And I think DeFi as a whole is getting to a point where a lot of people understand how a lot of these things work. And they're tired of either A, losing money to projects that are essentially Ponzi's, or B, losing money to developers who are not trustworthy and just end up rugging the protocols, right? They say that, oh, we have these bots that produce 1% a day, or they produce 2% a day, and we have no problem paying you guys 1% a day. Just put your money in here, and then, then they can just be able to pull money out of the contract and supposedly put it into these bots to be able to trade with, to earn yield, and all this stuff, right? And I think that we're starting to see like the beginning of a shift from people that are super attracted to these like high, I guess, quote unquote, degen APYs, where they're earning crazy percentages. But they realize that slowly and surely becoming unstable in the long run, right? So, I mean, just my personal opinion, I definitely think that we're starting to see like a shift, like I said, from people that are investing into those types of projects to getting into things that are a little bit more sustainable. And it also requires developers like yourself to be able to innovate and to do new things and kind of build upon the tech that we already have in the space and just make it better, right?
Correct, correct. I think now that a lot of people, have been burnt out or have had bad experiences in DeFi, the general consensus is I'm going to be happier with 20 to 30% returns per year over something that is giving me 400, 500% per year, because there is no certainty in that, right? But then if you go to, I guess, Uniswap pools, you go to Pancake swap pools, you choose any strategy from there, and you're earning about 10 to 12% easily per year,
Mhm.
and higher, much higher, if you're luckier and you invest at the right time, you take out at the right time, you sort of diversify your strategies. And that's what DeFi is about. It is providing an outlet for people to accumulate generative wealth that your traditional finance provider cannot give you. And that is the reality, right? But that mindset has been shifted a lot, because a lot of these auto staking tokens, a lot of rebase tokens, a lot of ridiculous, you know, products have come out with promised returns. However, there is a place and time for products like that.
Mm.
And it is not in a market like this, right? In a market like this, what I feel personally is that the smarter developers and the more innovative ones will be building technology that will become very lucrative in the near future or the further future, when the market has a better pickup.
Yeah. And I definitely 100% agree with you there. So let's talk about your guys's. Let's shift our focus back to Moonlight and Crescent Swap.
Of
Um,
course.
let's talk about the dates around when you guys plan to launch. Like when are the NFTs going to be available? All that stuff.
Yeah, so we're working a bit on, taking some word out there, getting some marketing out there. The NFTs should be available possibly sometime around next Friday at the latest. Actually,
Okay.
we're not looking to sell out immediately. We're looking to basically gauge interest, show that some of it is selling out. And then shortly after, let's say in a week's time, we will be launching the Artemis token. So we will be seeding the liquidity, or essentially the backing in this case, and we will just fair launch it at 1,000 market cap or 5,000 market cap, so that the price appreciation is really fast and really quick.
Mhm.
And then within about 2.5 weeks after that, we'd be ready and gearing up to basically host the Moonlight token pre-sale and also launch it.
Okay. Now, as somebody that's looking at potentially purchasing one of these NFTs, I know that you mentioned that you get some tokens, right? And is that I'm sorry, is that the Artemis or the Moonlight token?
Yeah, so if you purchase the NFT, you get 10 Moonlight tokens per
Okay,
day, and you also get 3% of Artemis's taxes. So those are actually in USDC, and it gets directly credited to your wallet. We do the credit to your wallet, I guess, every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how gas heavy it is, because we have to run 100 transactions potentially to
sure.
100 NFT holders. And then, if it's not too gas needy, we would probably trigger the royalties perhaps once per week or twice per week.
Okay. And where can people go to find out like more information on this? Obviously, you guys have your Discord, both for
Correct.
Daylight and both for Moonlight up and running,
Correct.
which I will link. I will link all that stuff down below, guys. So if you're watching this and you want a little bit more information on whether that's the NFTs, whether that's the Moonlight launch or the Artemis launch, all that stuff will be down below in the description for you to be able to go ahead and check out. And Ted, is there anything else that you wanted to add? I know that we're getting close to about 30 minutes here. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before we head out?
Not in particular, but I do want to give a message to everybody to better understand where we're coming from. So Crescent Swap was built, with the intention to create a more stabilized stratosphere in DeFi, create an ecosystem that is unrivaled when it comes to collateralization, when it comes to showing true yield, true value. We understand, the issues with a lot of bad actors, malicious projects in the space that have come up, that have pulled liquidity. And what we want to give out, basically our message to investors, to builders and developers, is that we're starting out our move on Arbitrum. It is hopefully going to be phenomenal because we do want to introduce a lot of new technology, novel technology, never seen before. And our key is providing investors with a minimum downside risk and providing builders with a platform where they have collaborative hands to help them build their projects out in the best and most efficient way possible.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. And like I said, to me, it sounds pretty cool. So I'm definitely going to be taking a very, very close look at what you guys have going on and staying up to date with all that stuff. But after you guys launch, I'd love to have you back on and talk a little bit about how things are
100%.
going for you and just kind of get an update overall on how everything's going over on Arbitrum.
100%. 100%. Thank you very much for having me, Murdoch.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, guys, I'm going to link everything down below in the description. So that way you can find out more information on Daylight and Moonlight, all the stuff that they're working on kind of behind the scenes, what their launch looks like, all that stuff. That being said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.